Hi, this is Namrata Zakaria, and welcome to Chic Magnet. When one talks of India's nation builders, one usually talks of the great industrialists who were tasked with the responsibility of building magnificent buildings for schools, hospitals, or their newspapers. We also talk about freedom fighters, mostly khadi wearing congressmen, who the current dispensation loves to disregard because they obviously are a very young party and had no role in the freedom struggle. But there's also a small group of textile savants who were determined to restore to India its lost glory as the makers of the finest cloth in the world. The status was long snatched from us by the early traders of the East India Company. I will very comfortably call Bimla Nanda Bissell as one of India's great nation builders. Her husband, John Bissell, he is an American expat. Her husband and she founded Fabindia in 1960. Fabindia is a company that remains at the forefront of retailing artisanal products, mostly clothing and furnishings, and supporting innumerable rural artisans and farmers. Fabindia is estimated to have a turnover of over 1,300,000 crores and has several stores across India and maybe a dozen abroad too. Bimla, she's beloved in New Delhi's elite circles as Bim, died last week at the age of 93. Those who know her remember her as an ever smiling face, a bundle of energy who, despite being in a wheelchair, outlasted many others at Delhi soirees. Her husband John had died of a stroke a couple of decades before, and Fabindia was being run by their son, Will or William Bissell. John and Bim also have a daughter, Monsoon. John used to work for Macy's in New York before he joined the Ford Foundation, and he was sent to India to advise the central cottage industries and give grants to artisans. Soon enough, he famously founded Fabindia, a furnishings export company, registering it at his two-bedroom flat in Delhi's Golf Links. It was actually Bim who encouraged John to work with handloom artisans. She had experience in social work and in education because she had spent some time at the World Bank. Jaya Jetli, the founder of the Dastari Haat Samiti, remembers Bimla very fondly. She says that Bimla was certainly the anchor and the aesthetic that inspired John in the development of Fabindia. Another friend, the designer Ritu Kumar, says in a social media post that Bim was as instrumental in shaping Fabindia as John was. Fabindia, in an Instagram post, has said that Bimla loved matching everything from her accessories to her chappals. She was a spirited promoter and a patron of Fabindia ever since her husband John brought his vision of working with India's craftspeople to life. Over the years, Fabindia grew to include furniture, food, personal care, and even jewelry. But it was always Bim's aesthetics that shaped the brand and all its products. Fabindia is as much a story of India as it is a story of doing business in India. In 1976, it opened its first retail outlet in Delhi's Greater Kailash. This is when the emergency had prohibited businesses from being registered at residential premises. This is also the year when the Reserve Bank of India ruled that foreign equity in an Indian business had to be limited to 40%. So Fabindia's shares were then distributed to family members and important suppliers. John had a stroke about 25 years ago. Will took over retail. Fabindia began to compete with the government-owned Khadi and Village Industries Commission, or the KVIC, which is a poorly managed and badly funded chain of emporia across India. Obviously, Fabindia has been saddled with silly controversies. They had a collection called Jasn-e-Rewaz, which was released, its campaign was released a few weeks before Diwali, and some people assumed it was a Diwali campaign with an Urdu name, and Fabindia was forced to pull it out because people felt it needed a Hindi name. In 2015, and this is very famous, the then HRD Minister Smriti Irani had filed a complaint against the Goa branch of Fabindia, saying that the trials room, the women's trial room, had a hidden camera. In 2022, Fabindia's IPO was rumored to be announced and upcoming because Bimla and Madhukar Khera, who is his father was one of John Bissell's earliest suppliers of dairy and a great partner to him. Bimla and Madhukar Khera together transferred 7.75 lakh shares to artisans and farmers. The still pending IPO has left many in fashion and retail flustered because Fabindia's numbers are formidable. Bimla Nanda Bissell, Bim, will be remembered for creating one of India's greatest companies. She will also be remembered for teaching us that India belongs to its villages and India will progress if the villages are taken into account.